All right, welcome again, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Matt Roberts. I'm the VP of Marketing at MarcomCentral. I'm joined today by John Genovese, who is our FusionPro's sales manager. Right now, the webinar that we have planned for today is an introduction to the various suites and product levels of FusionPro, which is our variable data printing software. Right now, I'm going to pass the time over to John, but I just wanted to give a brief introduction. There are 3 tiers within the FusionPro product that we offer, and John's going to go through each of those 3 tiers to see which one might be appropriate for you and for your company, but then also if there's any upgrades or any benefit that you might see from the other tiers. So with that said, I'm going to pass the time over to John, and he's going to take on the rest of today's presentation.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Okay, so let's jump right on in. Bear with me here. There we go. Alrighty, so let's start out with what is FusionPro? FusionPro is a personalized documents design and composition tool. Now, it can be used for designing print work. It can be used for, within a website, to design, for example, business cards or postcards, give proofs, and that sort of thing, right? FusionPro Creator, which is the desktop tool, is the template builder. It's a plug-in to Adobe Acrobat. Now, as we said, we have desktop and production versions of the software. So FusionPro Creator is not only a template builder, but it can also do, what we term as short-run desktop applications. I generally say sub 10,000 records. Is more than fine for FusionPro Creator. But when you need production volumes or automation, that's when you need to consider the other versions. You can build templates in InDesign or directly in Acrobat. If you're using InDesign, of course, you're going to flow into Acrobat and do the rules and so forth there. The rule system is very easy to use. It's generally menu-driven. We try to make the most commonly used ones menu-driven rules. But you can also, when you need to, get into JavaScript programming, for doing something that's truly complex. FusionPro uses the genuine PDF library, so we're always compatible and we have great quality output. And then we can also output into multiple languages depending on the proof that you have or the RIP that you have, whether you want PDF VT or PPML or PostScript or whatever. So, here's a little bit more about the suite. As we said, we have the desktop versions, which are FusionPro Creator and FusionPro Expression, which I'll describe in a little bit more detail. The production solutions consist of FusionPro Producer and FusionPro Server. So once again, FusionPro Creator is that desktop application that allows you to create the design or artwork in InDesign or Illustrator or just about any other application that can create a PDF as its output, and then bring that into FusionPro, which resides in Acrobat, where you're going to, assign the data, create the business rules, and so forth. And then from there, you can either create a press-ready output or upload those templates into one of the production-based systems. We also have FusionPro Expression. FusionPro Expression is an image personalization, for print, email, or web. So basically, you can read that as high-res and low-res images, right, as its output. It's 100% integrated into FusionPro. It, too, comes in desktop and server versions. Great product. One of the really nice features about the FusionPro suite is that FusionPro Creator, or FusionPro Expression in its world, is the tool that you need to learn, for day-to-day work, right? It's where you build the templates. Whether you're going out the producer or, going to run this thing in a server environment, you still need to create that tool or that template rather in the FusionPro Creator product. So, you can start with Creator and then, of course, upgrade into one of the other products. This tool is used all around the world by the smallest of small scale and the largest of the large scale. All use FusionPro Creator as their template builder. Now, what is a VDP application? Well, that's it's a very broad question, right? It's full color, black and white. It could be labels, it could be calendars, direct mail. It can be statements or trans-promotional. It can be serialized packaging, which is a pretty new application that we're hearing a lot about these days. It could be charts, graphs, sequential numbering. There's a wide gamut of the applications that come under the FusionPro VDP, within the FusionPro VDP world. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the FusionPro producer workflow. So once again, you're in FusionPro Creator. You have a large job that you're going to be doing, and you don't want to tie up your desktop, because as FusionPro is working, it's going to tie up Acrobat. You can certainly use your computer for other things, but Acrobat's highly used, and FusionPro is going to dominate that. So again, short jobs, not a problem, right? If you're going to tie it up for a few minutes, that's not a thing. But if you're going to tie it up for a couple of hours, well, that becomes more problematic. So we make FusionPro Producer for that exact solution. So, it's for composing large or complex jobs. It's, by the way, a very simple turnkey out-of-the-box solution. So let's take a real quick look at exactly what we're talking about here. So I have a document open. Now, this document has 30,000 records, okay? And, that's a lot for the desktop. Now, I'm going to show you quickly how this would look at the desktop level had we tried to do this document at the desktop. I'm going to do just 50 records, okay? Now, when I say compose, and I'm going to read out to you every 10, right? So there's 10, there's 20, 30, 40, and 50. Okay, so you kind of get a feel. That's that's running 100 and something pages a minute. I'm on a relatively old laptop. You'd get a little better performance out of a more powerful laptop, or desktop, but not a lot. All right, so now let's take a look at FusionPro Producer. So here, when I say compose, it's the same same interface, right, that we're used to. This is right out of FusionPro Creator. But now I'm going to check this checkbox. And then in here, I have the ability to set up different folders, which might be a production folder, a queue, a proof folder, something along those lines. And ultimately, those folders are set up or a connection to a network drive. Okay, so the producer's going to create the output and then put it somewhere, right, that you tell it. And then, of course, it's going to email you and let you know that it's done that. So now when I say compose, it actually takes the job from my desktop. It sends it through the network to the production server, FusionPro Producer, and then starts up a monitor so that you can watch the job run. Okay, so here's that monitor. Now, this is a 30,000 record job. So every 1% is going to be 300 records. Okay, so there's a 1%. So we've already done 300. This product, again, should be server-based. Now, I'm, again, running it on a relatively slow laptop. Okay. This product, the more power you throw at it, the better it will perform. So if you put this on a server class, product, this thing would probably be 50% done by now. Okay, as it is, I'm already 1,200 records in. So as you can see, it's much, much, much faster, even on the same hardware, than the desktop product. The other thing that this is able to do is, you see it's composing one job. I can send jobs at this thing all day long. It will actually compose 3 at a time. I'm only showing 1 at this point, but it could have done 3. Okay? All right, so let's get back to presentation here. So, again, that's FusionPro Producer. Now, the next product is FusionPro Server. Now, FusionPro Server can be a lot of different things. But to really net it out, we look at FusionPro Server as a high-volume automated document creation as being for high-volume automated document creation, such as print production. But it can also be automated personalized document creation for things such as web pages. So, you, again, have a custom-built web-to-print system, or you're a utility company and you simply want to present bills as a PDF online, or anything like that, right? So let's talk a little bit about the FusionPro Server APIs. So the way this works is, again, you still use FusionPro Creator to create the document. You're going to store that document in the FusionPro Server repository. Then, using an API, you're going to call FusionPro Server with a data set and say, use that particular template and give me my output. Now, if it's for print, it's going to be PostScript, PDF, one of these. If it's for web, it might be still PDF, but it could be an image, JPEG, PNG, EPS, TIFF, etc. Okay, so that's kind of the basic workflow. So again, you can integrate FusionPro Server into high-volume digital workflows. You can provide, it can provide lights out high-volume document creation. It too, by the way, it's configurable, so you can have as few as 1 instance. That's what we call it, meaning it can work on 1 job at a time, and then that is highly configurable. We have customers with 15 instances on each, server. They have multiple server licenses. So, and an instance means, how many jobs can it work on at the same time, right? We also have a gang run. You're able to gang templates up. So, for the ability to have better postal rates, right? Multiple templates with different data sets, different rules, all being ganged up. It can do job scheduling, batch running. It can be a preview mechanism for a web-based, personalized document creation, again, such as a web to print. And once again, so connect to any web application via the web services. We also have an optional watch folder workflow, which I will show you today. That's a very simple setup. It's web enabled for any FusionPro template. You can certainly get into custom web development with this product, retrieve data uploads, to websites, automatically run FusionPro server jobs. So once again, an integration that can be truly automated to do a lot of different things. If you're doing, web preview, as we talked about, once again, FusionPro Creator creates that template and stores it in the repository. But then, the web client might have a form that they need to fill out, name, address, that kind of thing. Your web application calls FusionPro Server with a web API. FusionPro Server delivers back a JPEG that the customer is going to preview in their, web client. So again, typical web to print type of application. Now, the watch folder option, one of the greatest things about the watch folder option is that it's very, very simple to set up. So a typical use case is that you might have templates that don't change very much. You've got them stored in the repository as it's showing here. And your customer is FTPing data files to you throughout the day. Now, you might have a process where you're cleansing the data file and doing other things with it, but we pick up when that data file hits our folder that we're watching. And once it picks it up, it will send it out for print, right? This is typically a print application, not nearly as much a web application. This is, again, more for print. I mentioned the gang template option. This is patented technology, by the way. But again, this is, you can see here, I have data file 1, template A, which creates output. I have data file 2, template B, which creates output. Our gang template option is going to take that information and be able to output both of those jobs commingled. So once again, you get the benefit of postal sorting. Okay. Now we talked about going into the watch system, and I'm going to give you a real quick overview of how that's set up. So the first thing is you're going to upload a template. Now, if you're a FusionPro user, you know that one of the selections that you have is something called a collect. And that's where we gather up the graphics and the fonts and everything else, and we create a zip file out of that. If you're used to InDesign, this would be much like package. Okay, you're going to take that zip file and you're going to hand it off to the watch system, or the repository actually, because this can be used for more than just the watch system. And you might put it in within a group. You can give it a name, tell it to generate a thumbnail, and with that, it ends up in a group. Now, I've got a couple different groups here that have a few different things in it. The next step would be to set up the watch folder. Now, I'm watching this folder right here. Okay, so I'm just watching for data to come in there. And if we take a look at the letter, this is the same letter that I showed a little bit earlier, right? That letter. What I've told it to do is to watch for an input file that starts with the letters HIGH. And then I've tied that condition to the high volume letter. Next step would be to set up how you want things to go. Okay, so when that letter comes in, I'm going to run 2 different jobs against that same data file and template. The first job is going to be a print run. I'm going to output the data to this folder, and that could be, again, a web location, right? I'm going to output in the PPML format. I'm going to use an imposition so that it's multiple up on a page. But simultaneously, I'm going to run an archive. So I'm going to output to a different folder. I'm outputting to multiple files this time, and I'm only having 1 record per file. And I'm not using an imposition. So both of these things will happen whenever a data file that has HIGH shows up. Now, I have a whole pile of these things set up, right? Here's one for a postcard. So when the postcard data comes in, it starts with PC. I run the travel postcard. So again, just a whole pile of these things. Data starts with, and then which template am I running? So, again, a very simple setup, very easy to use. This can, help you to be lights out, within minutes really of getting this thing going. Okay. So, in summary, we have the FusionPro Creator Design Tool. One tool for everything FusionPro. Once you learn that tool, it's a real simple jump to any of the other products. We have the FusionPro Producer product, which I showed you. It's a plug and play, very fast composition engine. Doesn't require programming, and it can be launched or is launched from FusionPro Creator. It's also quite good, by the way, at rerunning jobs. Where you have a new data set, but still manual. You can't do that programmatically, right? You go into the monitor, you select finish jobs, pick a job, say, here's a new data file, go, right? That kind of thing. And then we have FusionPro Server, of course, which is, for automation, high volume, ganging, the watch folder, all web enablement, all done by typically in-house programmers, right? A little bit more to implement, but that's the beauty. It's highly functional because it is highly configurable through the APIs. Okay, with that, let's open it up to some questions.
All right, thanks, John. Yeah, we do have a couple questions in, and I'm just going to defer the answers to you, John. So the first question, and it's a pretty common one, is the pricing. So what is the pricing between the three different levels that you explained today?
Yeah, so FusionPro Creator is it's a subscription model. That's $1,500, and it comes with FusionPro Expression, and you purchase that right on the website. FusionPro Producer is a set price. It's 3 instances. It's in the 15,000 plus maintenance price range. And then FusionPro Server is, much more configurable. So the options, the number of instances would really dictate the price. But generally speaking, you're in the $50,000 price category for that.
Gotcha. And just to clarify, the Creator is $1,500 per year.
Per year, that's correct. It's a subscription, and it's $1,500 per year. And what's nice is that you're putting when you sign up, you're of course putting your credit card in. That gets stored and will automatically renew. And of course, you have the option to cancel if you want.
Right. And then another question here, and I should mention too to those here, if you have any last minute questions, please feel free to put those in the questions section. There's only 2 questions left, so if you have anything that wasn't answered during the webinar, get those in there. Sorry, the second question is, how long does it take to deploy one of these products?
Yeah, sure. So FusionPro Creator takes minutes to deploy because you simply do an install and then it becomes part of InDesign and Acrobat. FusionPro Producer is also a very simple implementation. 10-15 minutes. It can be completely configured, and set up so that you're off and running and using the production. FusionPro Server, if you're talking about the watch system, again, it doesn't take very long to set up a watch system. Certainly under an hour, depending on how many templates you have, you can be up and running with the watch system. Now, when it comes to the APIs, now you're talking about a development effort, and it would be really hard, for us to estimate, how long it might take you to develop your whole workflow. But the integration, on our side is, really not long. But, of course, it's only part of what could be, short or long process.
Gotcha. And then the last question that we have here is, some of the attendees that are joining today are current FusionPro clients. Some of them, they're on Creator. Are there any upgrade possibilities or allowances for somebody who maybe say is on creator or producer and wants to move up another tier?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So, when you have Fusion Pro Creator, you're always going to need that product. So, you're not really upgrading per se. You're simply adding. So when you add Fusion Pro Producer, you would simply add it onto a server workstation, and you can either go with the creator application, which, by the way, will output locally. We've talked about that. But if you don't need that capability anymore, we have a designer application. Fusion Pro Producer comes with 5 seats of that. So you could use that and then, drop the subscription portion of it. But many people still want that ability to output at their desktop, so they simply keep Creator. Now, if you have Fusion Pro Producer and want to go to Fusion Pro Server, we will credit what you paid for the license, against what you're going to pay for the server, right? So, we said that Producer is $15,000, and let's say that, you're going to a single instance server, which is $50,000. There would be an upgrade for $35,000. So that's
Perfect.
how that works. And by the way, something I didn't mention is Fusion Pro Server, can also be a site or enterprise license. And we have a number of customers that use it exactly that way. They simply have hundreds of servers out there doing what they do.
All right, well, thank you, John. There's no further questions, so that concludes today's webinar. Just as a reminder, though, this webinar was recorded, so we'll send it out to everybody who registered. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or John, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.